Welcome to another episode of Politics Reimagined. My name is Charlisa Shelton.
And I'm Zach Ritter. See how they mess up this time?
Awesome. And today we'll be discussing a variety of topics, starting with reparations.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
dun, dun. Go ahead, Zach. I'll let you start.
I'm starting? Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I was reading this piece about From Here to Equality. So if folks are interested in this topic, check out From Here to Equality by William Darity and Kirsten Mullen. And basically it lays out what reparations for Black folks could look like. And it gets real into the weeds of things. Like, you have had to have marked on a government paper for the last 12 years that you identify as Black, which makes sense. And they make the argument that the reparations should, this is the controversial part, should not happen for Black folks who are coming from different countries. So that's so, because like they're saying like even, West African folks or like Caribbean folks are coming to America or came into America at some point and then are benefiting from the structures that Black folks in this country built because of slavery. And they also talk about how it shouldn't, like, basically it doesn't have to be someone cutting a check. It could be reparations in the form of free college for Black folks, baby bonds, federal housing loans, and stuff like that. I mean, I want to get your take, but I was talking with my friend who is, his family's East African, and he was like, I understand the argument of not getting reparations for, like, I don't know, newer generations of Black folks that are coming to this country, because he benefits from what Black enslaved folks and their ancestors built. But he's like, but I also suffer modern day forms of racism. And so shouldn't I also be repaid for that debt? Also, before we get into it, I should note 2008, 2009, the US government officially apologized. Acknowledged. Whoops. Sorry. They acknowledged and apologized for slavery, but attached no dollar amount to any of it. There has been ongoing, I forgot the guy's name, for 30 years, he's been trying to get a bill passed through Congress just to explore what reparations.
I think we have HR 40.
HR 40?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And another thing our listeners should know, which is super messed up, is white slave owners received reparations.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So it tells you a lot about this country. White slave owners, when slavery officially ended,
the government made them whole because they lost their slaves.
Exactly. They lost their quote unquote property. And so the white government says that these white people should be paid $300 per Black person that they owned. And here's the real kicker. But the Black folks that were enslaved could get up to $99 and
40 acres and a mule situation.
That was kind of like a mythology that never really happened. It was talked about, but never happened, right?
Yeah.
But a one-way ticket, quote unquote, back to Africa, but really to this American colony that we had colonized, called Liberia, liber, which means free, right? and Monrovia is the capital of Liberia after James Monroe, our president. Um, and so Lincoln basically, history looks at him as this great emancipator, but he wanted all these Black folks to go to this American colony called Liberia because he didn't think white and Black people could live harmoniously together. In a way, he may have been right because he knew white people, and so maybe he knew what he was talking about with white folks not being able to live peaceably. But reparations, speak on it. What
Okay,
do you?
so this is going to take a really long time, right?
Yeah,
We're going to talk about this for a really long time. I have so much stuff to unpack
do it.
with reparations. So first, to talk to um, discuss your friend who is East African. Um, yeah, no, sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Listen, I'm not necessarily listen. Okay, today versus 40, 50 years ago was a different world, right?
yeah,
Like we have made steps to make life better. The racism um has it's the racism is interwoven into the system, right?
right. It
Um
evolved.
uh right. We talked about that, right?
Yeah,
But where all of our problems stem from, when I say our, I mean Black folks, where our problems stem from is historical
yeah,
problems.
right.
We are not on the level that we should be on because of the things that happen to our ancestors, people before us. And listen, when I say ancestors, I don't mean people who came off of slave ships. I want to be clear about this because when people talk about systemic racism, immediately they go to slave ships.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not talking about that.
right.
I'm talking about Jim Crow.
Yeah,
I'm talking about all the things that happened, after we were emancipated. I'm talking
yeah,
about all of these things that harmed the community as a whole, right? Think about all of the stories that we hear now of Black towns
yeah,
that were totally built doctors, lawyers, banks, schools, all of those things. And what happened? White folks came through and was like, yeah, no, not today.
right,
You can have all this stuff. Like, I can't believe you were able to build all this stuff without us. We're going to burn it down. We're going to take your shit.
right,
This land is ours. We're going to kill your people. We're going to pillage and plunder. I mean, how many times has that happened over the course of, Black folks being in America after slavery?
all right.
Again,
Tulsa,
let's talk about
Tulsa,
after,
Oklahoma,
yeah, it's
1921.
Rosewood. It's been multiple places that, where these things have happened where, you know, Black people were doing just fine. We were good, we were living our own lives, doing our own thing. And
Yeah,
going back to the whole fictitious 40 acres and a mule thing, they
right.
released Black folks from slavery and literally gave them nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all this time they've been working the lands, they've built all these things in this country, and most wealth in America is generational wealth. Well, if your people are, if things are taken from your people, they can't give you anything, right? So nine times out of ten, when older Black people throughout the years are dying, all they left was debt, right? So like in your family, you can get some bonds, you can get a piece of property of this $60,000. Like, yeah, we paying for a funeral.
Right.
So and again, it's cheating, it's stealing, it's just flat out taking stuff from
Well,
folks.
well, it was coordinated stealing. It
Yes.
right. It was I don't know, Wells Fargo and Bank of America and a lot of stuff that we know today. Then we put our money in were complicit in the slave trade.
Yes.
Uh, and they estimate that the compounded interest of all that stuff
Yes.
and slavery, okay, to really take it back, right?
Slavery was a business.
It was a bit,
It was
yes,
a
it was,
business.
right,
It
it
was
was,
how people generated wealth.
right, right.
You
So,
literally generated wealth on the backs of people and then
right,
said these people are not, well, we can free them, but they're not even worthy of being paid back for the things that they, for all of the things that they've built, all of the things
right,
that they've done. It was
right,
just like, okay, deuces, or you can stay over here and you can, till the farm for us, and we'll give you, 75 cents a
right,
month, like
that's
it's,
right.
jokes.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
so for folks that are wanting dates and all this type of stuff, so 1526, there was like a Spanish ship that crashed into Georgia, South Carolina, and it had black folks in the ship,
Yeah.
and those folks got out. I don't know how, but they got out of
Fellow
the
people.
alive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So right. So those, some of those folks became the Gullah people, and others like started just hanging out with Native American folks in Georgia and South Carolina. And they were free, they were freed folks because the white, the Spaniards were not around because the slave ship crashed. So then fast forward, 1619 is the 1619 Project, right?
Right.
New York Times. And uh, Point Comfort, what is it? The White Lion ship lands at Point Comfort in Virginia, bringing West African folks, and apparently 50 different ethnic groups from West Africa, over the slave trade era were brought. So these weren't just like Senegalese folks, and these
Right.
weren't just like Nigerian folks. These were a
Right.
bunch of Angolan
Yes,
folks.
Guyanese people, it's
Yeah, right.
people from
Yeah.
Mali, it's people, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And the weird thing and the super effed up thing about America is uh there were no, how do I put this? America made, and the racist systems that were created made people black, right? And made Europeans white. There were no white people in Europe, right?
Right.
They were Spaniards and they were Italians and they were
Right.
Germans and they were all these different, nationalities, and they killed each other because of their nationalities.
Right.
And the same thing, there were no, controversial, right? But or strange to think there were no black people in the 54 countries of Africa.
Right.
They were all their different,
All tribal is all about their countries.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And we make, European stuff makes fun of West African tribes, but what is the French? The French are a tribe, the
Yeah.
Spaniards are a tribe,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
these are just white tribes. We just don't call them white tribes because they
Right.
have more money and they got to draw the maps. But so what happens in America, 1619, from then on, you have slavery, in the South, but you have this really important date that I want our listeners to know, and maybe they already know, so forgive me if I'm repeating, but Bacon's Rebellion,
Right.
right? 1676, and you have this, one of the first times where black folks and white folks who are poor come together and start taking over rich white people's land. And this is when people, rich white people are like, oh, hell no, we can't do this. And then they switch up all the ways that they are doing the slave trade so that you can't have this solidarity, right? And hopefully we're going to talk about Fred Hampton and solidarity movements in Chicago. But
Oh yeah.
but my friend did say, eventually my friend was like, you know what, I don't think I should get those reparations because black folks built the White House, black folks built all these things, and they built the Smithsonian. I didn't know that. And
Right.
they built all these institutions, and they created what the American economy, they built Wall Street, and the $12 trillion is the kind of the price tag that they put at it today of all this wealth that black folks built, but that never got paid back,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's kind of what Dr. Martin Luther King is alluding to with the the check that was never right delivered
Right,
to Black
right,
people.
right.
And this, I think this is a perfect time to make good on reparations. And I want to say one more thing. I'm gonna shut up and hand the mic to you. But make good is actually a German thing, Weder macht gut, to make good on history. And my grandma got reparations.
Right.
Right. And I think Jewish folks don't talk a lot about Jewish reparations because it maybe is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But she got $300 a month starting in like, I think the mid 50s. I mean, the official date was 1952, right? The war had ended in 45, but I think she started getting a $300 check in the late 50s, early 60s. And that helps someone, you know, build back their life, because you killed all their, you know, all of her family. 60 people in her family were murdered. She had nothing. But the shame from the international community on Germany made them do certain things of paying reparations to Jewish folks. They didn't pay, I don't think they paid reparations to Gypsy Romani folks, but probably not. Actually, they didn't. I looked it up. They didn't. It's super messed up. But that changes how a country views itself.
Yeah.
They started putting plaques on different things. A Jewish person used to live here, they got murdered. And they did the museum for the Holocaust in Germany, and they blew up where Hitler used to live. Like they really, and they don't have any statues of Hitler and Eichmann and all these killers.
Right.
Yet we still have these statues of the killers here.
Right. Right. Yeah. The statues. I don't want to spend any time on the statue. Okay. so let me tell you. I when I first moved here, you know, I used to do work for the NAACP in California. You know, I do workshops, different things like that for, you know, hiring and all, you know, helping people learn how to interview and dress appropriately and all those other things. So when I came here, I was like, hey, you know, like I'm in the place now, right? Because this is like Black Mecca, right? And so, you know, I reached out to a chapter of NAACP, and one of my worst experiences. So I'm talking to the president of NAACP. I go drive to his office, and you know, I'm talking to him about, you know, different things that I've done, what I see as things that will help, that will impact our community in a positive way, you know. And he was like, so very dismissive. You're young.
Ooh.
You don't know. You don't understand. See, what we need to do is we need to get rid of those statues in Stone Mountain. That's the most important thing. So I look at this man, which is, and I'm like, keep it together. Okay, because he was old enough to be your grandpa, and you not want to be disrespectful to your elders. And so I said, as politely as I can,
yeah,
what the hell does a statue have to do with the daily life of a Black person?
Right.
I don't care about those statues. They can stay in Stone Mountain because I don't have to go there. Right. I don't have to go to Stone Mountain ever. And I've never been. Don't ever plan to go, right? If you put those statues up, you letting me know I'm not welcome. You don't want my kind there. And I'm okay with that. Keep your park. I don't want it, right? But it really drives me, it drove me crazy, and it drives me crazy to this day, because I think that symbolism is a big thing. To too many people.
Yeah.
Too many people. Like you said, you know, they said they apologized, but you know, you can keep your apology. You know you were wrong. I know you were wrong. I don't need you to tell me you were wrong. What are you gonna do about it?
But see, everything in this country unfortunately has always been about white folks and their feelings. So the statues, it's really about,
No.
no surprise.
No.
The white the white folks, the statues and tearing down the statues, uh, which I was told that some of these first big conversations, modern conversations, were between Wynton Marsalis and Mitch Landrieu, the
Okay.
governor
The
of
Louisiana.
Louisiana, right? And Marsalis, the famous
Mm-hmm.
musician. And he was saying, it'd mean a lot if you start tearing down these statues that are racist of former slave owners and Confederate soldiers. But this is virtue signaling of Southern whites to other whites that we are better now. We are changed.
Mm-hmm.
We just took the Confederate flag off of the Mississippi flag.
Listen, they can do all like so.
Right.
So listen, people can walk and chew gum.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing. If you want to listen, if you want to take down, if you want to take down the statues, I'm not opposed to taking down the statues. What I am saying is, what exactly does taking down the statues do to the average Black person's life?
Yeah,
How does it
it doesn't.
impact their life? It doesn't. And so I don't care about the statues. They don't make a difference to me if they're up or not.
Right.
And it doesn't make a difference to the average Black family. That once we get past, and Black people have to do this too, because again, and I understand it. I'm not saying that that they shouldn't hold that sensitivity. What I'm saying is that shouldn't be first.
Right.
Like, let them keep their statues.
Right.
Let them keep their statues. Let's work on some healthcare. Let's work on some education. Let's work on things that are going to impact our daily lives. Then we can come back and worry about the statues once we are in a space where our livelihoods are better. And so
well, that was so okay. So that was the interesting thing. A lot of white folks, certain white folks, I'm not gonna say all white folks, were very, very scared when Obama got elected, and you saw gun purchases go up like crazy.
The same way they did with Joe Biden. These people
100%.
crazy.
When there's a Democrat president, yeah, they buy a bunch of guns. But this notion that the first Black president is somehow going to steal, quote unquote, or take what's white folks and give it as reparations to Black folks. And maybe there's a lot of Christians in this country, right? It's founded on these weird Christian twisted morals. The judgment day is going to come because we know all this terrible stuff that we've done. And we're kind of scared that Barack Hussein Obama is going to do this healthcare thing, and he's shrouding it as reparations.
Yeah.
And he's going to kill white grandma with these death panels. Remember this? Remember the death panel?
Oh no, I remember.
Right. And now
there was an actual. I remember this. I can't remember whose commercial it was, but it was a commercial where it was an old white lady sitting on the edge of a cliff.
Oh, God.
And somebody just came and like pushed her off the cliff. And the commercial was like, really? Seriously? I mean, this is outrageous.
I don't want to spoil the movie, but if you fast forward, there's now almost 500,000 people dead in America because of COVID, and a lot of those folks didn't have health care. But Obamacare is coded racially, as all politics in this country is coded racially.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As Black and brown healthcare.
Yeah.
And so you have certain white folks in certain states that say, I'm not going to touch that healthcare because that's not for me, that's for those people. And they literally, and Jonathan Metzl in Dying of Whiteness chronicles this, Dying of Whiteness, Jonathan Metzl, people die on their sickbed because they refuse to take what they consider Black and brown healthcare because they're white people. So you have a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of raising, as Malcolm X would say, raising white folks' consciousness to not be so racist and hateful Uh, and 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 I think the Black Lives Matter movement is calling for an end of qualified immunity, holding killer cops accountable, but also wrapped up in there is reparations. And I think here's what I think. I want to ask you this: what? And I go back and forth on this, and honestly, it's not really my place to think about this or have an opinion on this. So I will reserve judgment. But there are benefits of just straight up cutting people checks, like they even did with Japanese Americans who were interned in this country. They got $20,000, right? Ronald Reagan, I didn't like his politics. I think he was a bad president, but he straight up was pushed to give reparations to Japanese folks who were basically enslaved in this country. $20,000. Do you think it should be in the form of a check, or do you think it should be in the form of different type of loans, different types of college, credit? What do you think? Or is it a walk and chew gum type thing? It's both.
Okay, so let me just say this, because I'm glad you brought up the Japanese. It's a very interesting place that Black people find themselves in, right? We live in a country that is okay with handing everybody else reparations, right? We're gonna give it to the Japanese because we did them wrong, right? Even though they didn't work, they just was, they ain't build shit. They
had to survive.
And listen, I'm not belittling their struggle, but I am like, honest is honest and real is real, right? The Native Americans, they was like, okay, boom, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and they did that and made those people whole, and had no issue with doing it. There were no talks of baby bonds. There were no talks of college programs and loans and all that. Run me my money. Like, I don't know. I want a check. I want a fucking check. Like, that is it. I don't am I clear enough on this? I do not need somebody to ration out something to me based on whatever criteria they decide. No, determine what it is you owe Black people and run us some checks. That is the answer. That is the only answer. That is the right answer. Like, seriously, listen, it's the same thing with white folks. It's the same thing with Asian folks. The same thing with Jewish folks. The same. Everybody is not going to do the right thing.
Right.
Everybody's not going to do the right thing with the money.
Right.
But give them the opportunity to screw it up. If this is what you determine you owe Black people, and you start handing out that money, it's going to be some people that just blow the shit. They're going to blow it in and buy stupid stuff. It's going to be people riding around in Jags who live in apartments, and that is their problem. I don't care. They are contributing to the economy by blowing their money. That is their right. Let them do it. But I want to be able to determine what it is that I want to do with the money. I don't need baby bonds. I don't need college loans. I don't need any of those things. I think that how you treated everybody else, you should treat Black people the same. And the idea that we have this very condescending conversation about these things that, Black people, that we need to give Black people in lieu of money is disgusting. And
it's kind of code and maybe belittling.
Well,
they can't handle a check. So yeah.
Don't give them checks. Right. They're gonna buy malt liquor and chicken and watermelon and have barbecues. It's just like,
and we know certain white folks say that explicitly. In Hamilton, Georgia, right? There was that hot mic with
Yes,
the
yes.
yeah, and the man literally said, I think it was the police officer talking to, they're both white, talking to the mayor of Hamilton, who I think both had to step down. He was
Yeah.
saying, well, back then, black folks were in slavery, and Jesus, and we provided them food and housing, and all they had to do was work.
All they had to do was work.
Right, right.
Now we give them all of that stuff, and they don't have to do nothing.
Right, right. Which is this common myth of welfare,
Yes.
where white folks benefit the most from welfare.
Right.
They're willing to shoot themselves in the foot because they're saying that there's these black and brown welfare kings and queens and that type of talk. But I'm interested in, well, one thing I should say.
Yes.
Native American folks have also been really screwed in this country.
Yeah.
And they do have some, reservations, but also remember, Adolf Hitler studied America's Jim Crow and said, those are great laws. I'm going to take them and use them where a Jewish person and a Christian person can't be married. And if you're, basically one drop Jewish, you're no longer a German citizen. So Hitler studied not only the Jim Crow South, he also studied he got the prototype for the concentration camps from our Native American reservations.
Right.
Because he saw, wow, all these Native American people are dying on these reservations. Right. They don't get any food or any government help, blah, 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 blah. This is a great idea. I'm going to do this to the Romanis and Jews and Slavs. So Native American folks, this is a whole different conversation, but they have also been royally screwed by the American government, and
I agree.
Need to have some type of reparations as well. But the thing is, the American government can't even, well, currently cut a check bigger than $600. And the argument is, if you have 40 million Black folks, how is the American government going to do it? They can do it, but where is the political will?
Well, we know that that's not there, right? I mean, we can't even get $15 an hour minimum wage.
Right.
So you know what I mean? Like, and we have we have 50 Democrats,
Yeah.
Joe Manchin is still like, no, I don't think so, so I mean, we can't give that.
And reminding folks, that's $15 an hour even for average white folks. Like the government won't even do that.
No. Remember, that's $15 for Black people and brown people. Right. That is $20 for white people.
There you go.
Remember this, white people, $20, not 15. Okay. So that's it. I think we should run ads. Listen. Give the Black brown people $15, you're gonna get 20. All right, that's the word. Word on the street.
And that may win over some white folks because that's actually, as you know, how it is, because wherever you have working class white folks, they are still making $10,000 more than the counterparts.
And Reverend Barber was actually in West Virginia. I think he did a Moral Monday out there. There were people from West Virginia standing in front of Joe Manchin's spot, like, yo, run us that $50 an hour. So he is starting to get pushback, for the.
Well, okay. So I want to ask you something as someone who lives in the South in Georgia, like, you and I were talking about, we both watched Judas and the Black Messiah.
No, I didn't watch it yet.
Oh, shoot, my bad. Okay, my bad.
It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. I promise I meant to watch it this weekend, but remember our weekend just ran away, so I don't know what happened. I didn't
got time. It's a global pandemic. You got time.
You would think, right?
Yeah. Fred Hampton was bringing together like, you know, poor white folks from Appalachia that, and he used the Confederate flag because they used the Confederate flag. And he said, this is racist as hell. But if this is what it takes for you to come on the team, like, all right, we're gonna put a black fist, power fist over the Confederate flag. And he also got the Young Lords, who were, you know, Puerto Rican poor folks in Chicago. So he got these poor white folks, these Black Panther folks, poor black folks, and poor Puerto Rican folks in Chicago, and organized them in this radical solidarity against police brutality, against, you know, well, for breakfast programs that fed all their kids, for healthcare programs that drove people to the hospital when no one else was doing that. Reverend Barber, I see in the same vein as a Fred Hampton, who's like, poor white folks, just because, you know, W.B. Du Bois is saying that you're getting paid in these wages of whiteness, just because you feel superior because of your skin doesn't mean you're not in almost the same position as your black and brown brothers and sisters. Do you, I guess my question is a big buildup, do you see this kind of radical solidarity happening, or no?
Here it is. Like you mentioning Fred Hampton, mentioning the flag. Right? He's like, this Confederate flag is bullshit. But if you can see where I'm coming from and we can do this together, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep your symbol and I'm gonna put my symbol over top of it. We're gonna put it together. This is again, like I said earlier, with symbolism, that's a huge thing. It's a hard thing for people to get past. And people get so caught up on it that they don't do the work. You know, if we're just talking about flags, if we're just talking about statues, we're not doing work, because that person is your enemy. Like, just because of a stupid symbol, that person is your enemy, and you can't find common ground with that person to do the necessary work. So then we all just kind of sit around and be like, I hate that guy over there because that flag is garbage. You know what I mean? And then they over there saying, I hate Black Lives Matter. And then you understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying, let me clarify this, because this is a big thing. I'm not saying some of these people you just can't work with, period. Because of their heart, because of their heart, because of who they are, period. Right? But what I'm saying is, like, symbols are symbols. And like, sometimes you just got to throw that away and do the work.
100%. And they encapsulate identity, right? So I think the big part of the Trump white lash to Obama is because I'm losing my identity, I'm losing my whiteness, I'm losing my job, all these things. But Fred Hampton worked with these racist white folks, and over time, because they worked together, some of these white folks were like, you know what? I'm hearing your stories, and this symbol is racist. And they changed the symbol. After a while, they made the Rainbow Coalition symbol, which is a bunch of different colors representing all the different colors of skin of the people in the movement. But it's through those radical solidarity moments that it's like, you know what? Actually, yeah, this is super racist and hurtful. I'm not going to do this anymore. There's a great scene in the movie where Fred Hampton comes to the Young Patriots, which is the poor white group, and he says, one guy stands up and says, well, I didn't own any slaves. And Fred Hampton's like, okay, look, no one's blaming you for that or saying that you did, but you were paid a little bit more to be the slave watcher, right? What happens if back in the day, us enslaved folks and you that were being also screwed over by these plantation owners, what happens if we teamed up and slit the throat of the plantation owner? Then we could share all the wealth of this farm.
And all of this is ours.
Right. And then you see the gears start churning in this Appalachia guy, and he's like, you know what? That's actually a good idea. So I'm wondering if, and I know, like, whatever, you know, conservative media tries to pit people, and even corporate media tries to put people against each other. do you see any kernels of hope in your, I don't know, in your sphere that's like, you know what, maybe people are starting to figure it out? Not so much.
I think it's a bad. I think it's yeah, it's bad to ask me those questions, just because I again, like I, you know, I've said before, Georgia is very segregated. It just is, even today. I have like one Asian family that lives on my block,
Yeah.
and I think like two Hispanic families.
Yeah.
I have no idea who they are. Don't know their names. Don't know,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even again, doing business, I own a business.
Yeah.
You know, I have obviously I've worked with white people in my business, right? Um, but but um but it stops there. Like
Yep.
there are no genuine relationships, no genuine friendships. You know, you have business relationships and that's it. So I've been here for 6 years and I don't have a white friend here in Georgia, which is crazy for me because I have all my best friend is from Honduras. Like
Uh,
I, you know what I mean? So it's just like it's weird for me, but this is just, you know, how it is.
but that speaks volumes. I mean, yeah, you
Yeah.
just answered the question right there. Like,
Yeah.
if it's still very segregated and folks aren't talking to each other, then the evolution is not going to happen.
Right.
And
And
so it's
like
a,
and it really truly depends on the area that you are in Georgia where there's any even any friendly interaction between the races. Like if you go to like 5 Points, 5 Points is like 5 Points reminds me of Hollywood. It's
yeah.
just like it's dirty, you know,
Mm,
it's artsy and eclectic and it's a whole bunch of um uh you know, street kids out there, and you
yeah.
know, everybody is high as hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything will look a little bit sketchy.
Yeah.
Then you see like pods of people not based on race. Um, and then there's another area out here that's like really like the gay community. It's like a whole bunch of gay restaurants and bars and stuff like that over there. And
Mm,
it's like being home. It's
mm.
like being home. It's just like, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? So it's just it's so it just depends on like really where you are.
Well, let me ask you that. Even in the gay part of town, is that still segregated? Is it black
It's
and white?
not. No,
It's
no.
not.
It's
Oh,
very just like everybody is kind of together. Everybody is
oh, okay.
very friendly. Everybody, you know what I mean?
All right. All right.
It's really chill.
No,
Even in that area, like um even the houses,
mm,
you know, you drive down the street and like everybody got like Black Lives Matter signs. You got the gay pride flags like
oh,
everywhere. So it's like it literally reminds me of I'm just like I live it over here, you know.
eh,
But people say hi and they just so